Good morning, Kitty.
Good morning.
Kitty Bethea.
Bethea.
Thank you for coming.
My delight.
Yes, and our delight, because it's real important that we hear the stories of everybody, young, middle-aged, old, co-workers. That's what makes up the campus and the congregation. So, and you're the only one that can do this. Nobody else can do this. We probably wouldn't want someone else to tell our story.
Probably not.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. Where are you from, and parents and siblings? And
Well, I'm from South Carolina, the area called the PD, which is near the ocean. So, my parents were Red Bethea and Joanne Bethea. And my father was, like a lot of people, came home from World War II and started a family. I have 5 brothers and sisters: Buddy, Shannon, Lisa, Cammie, and Fitzhugh.
Pardon me?
Fitzhugh.
Fitzhugh.
He was named for his uncle and his grandfather, who was named for General Fitzhugh Lee of the Southern Forces.
Oh my.
Confederacy. Yeah. And my family is very Southern on both sides. My father's family has lived in the little town of Dillon, South Carolina for 200 years, mostly farming, and that's the whole town where my relatives almost. My grandfather was the youngest of 13, so he had, cousins and all that kind of stuff. So my father had zillions of first cousins. And we used to say we couldn't do anything that we weren't supposed to because Aunt so-and-so or Cousin so-and-so will have told our parents before we got home. So that's the kind of town I grew up in the 50s and 60s.
Okay.
When there was a lot of change going on. The farming changed very drastically from having many, many people doing all the work to mechanical work that could do cotton pickers and stuff who could do corn.
Oh, that's
could
right.
do a lot of changes that way. So, and all my brothers and sisters are married or have been married, and I have 12 nieces and nephews that I just love playing with.
And you have a medical family, is that correct?
Well, some of them, yes. I have 2 brother-in-laws and 2 sisters that are doctors, medical doctors of different variety. And I have a brother and a sister who are lawyers. And a brother-in-law who's a lawyer. So
wow.
We just could start our own clinic.
Yeah, you could. You could, very much. Okay. Now, what about your schooling? Where did you go to school?
I went to public school all my life. I grew up, as I said, in a small southern town, and Catholics were few and far between. So I went to public school, and then I had religious classes on Saturday morning, which we thought was a bummer to have to go to class on Saturday morning. And then I went to the College of Charleston, in Charleston, South Carolina. And that's where I met the Dominicans. Oh. They were at Springbank, which is the retreat house.
Right. Met Betty Condon.
And met Betty Condon and a priest called John Egan.
Right.
And got to know them quite well over the 4 years I was in college.
Nice. Okay.
And so they were very instrumental in my becoming a Dominican, both of them, because their personalities were very different. John was much more like my personality. And Betty was the listener, the quiet one.
Yeah.
So I would go there like for spring break or a thing and hang out with everybody there. And it was more of a social justice center by that time. They were doing, it was a time of integrating of schools. And so John had gone up to Providence College and recruited all these young, energetic people to come down and teach in the what had been traditionally the black schools. Because they wanted to integrate the faculties as well as the students. So it was an interesting place to be, and I loved it. I had been involved in some kind of social justice most of my life, but the whole prayer thing, I'd been involved in the charismatic renewal too. Okay. And I wanted to wed those 2 things because I had seen people burn out doing the social justice, or people so into the religion thing that they couldn't move out and deal with other folks. So I
good observation.
I wanted that. So I found it there, and I found that also we had masses in the little chapel, or we had masses outside. That was a whole new kind of thing happening then, with different kind of music.
And that was with Betty and
John.
Johnny.
Yes.
Okay.
And then in Charleston, I started a folk group at the cathedral. and we did some of the contemporary music. And that's when I started playing the guitar because I couldn't find one, so I said, well, I'll just have to do something about that. So I picked up a guitar and started learning. My friends said the first year or so was horrible, but I got better.
They were your friends. They let you continue, yeah.
And so that was the beginning. I taught school for a year, Catholic high school religion, sophomores. I didn't realize how challenging that would be. I learned that year I was not a teacher. The adults, yes, kids, high school kids, no. Especially religion for high school. The one day that they really liked religion was when they were having a football game. They would pray to win. But that was about it. So after that, and I lived at the beach that year, so right on the water.
Oh, nice.
Yes, it was. So whenever I had a bad day at school, I'd go take a walk on the beach. Then after that, I entered.
It sounds like that was every day.
Yeah, it was. And twice on weekends. So I was very involved in the Charismatic Renewal community at that time, too. So we were doing music still. Then I entered in 1976.
What was it that inspired you, motivated you?
It was the prayer and the social justice things that were wedded that I saw in them. And I've been thinking about religious life since I was in grammar school, I guess. You know.
And is Betty the only Adrian Dominican to this point that you met?
First her, and then she introduced me to.
Okay.
Yeah, there were a number of Adrians in the area.
Right.
Ellen Robinson Dellman,
Right.
and Mary Ray Waller, Catherine Clyett. All of those we had a little group.
Nice group.
They didn't call it mission groups at that point, collegials or something. Anyway, and I used to joke that the thing I needed most to join the Adrian Dominicans was a seat cushion because we were always at meetings. But I enjoyed that group, and they were all doing different things, so it showed me that Adrians, were involved in all kinds of things, not just schools. In fact, I didn't know any of. Oh yeah, Francis and Barfield and Mary Lou Myers were teaching in a little Catholic school in Greenville, South Carolina. So those were the only ones that I knew were teaching. And Greenville was where my mother was from, so I was kind of familiar with that. And that's where I got my first, after I made first profession in 1979. And I said the next day I went to South Carolina to work at a parish, St. Mary's there, which had been my mother's parish she grew up in.
Isn't that something? Interesting.
And all my life religious life almost has all been in the South. And not Florida, South, but
No.
Carolinas mostly, and then New Orleans.
So you entered, and how many entered at the time you did?
There were 5 of us all together.
Okay.
One left at Christmas time and never came back. And the other was Barbara Wall, who already had her degree, and so she was kind of like
Philosophy,
a different kind of. So really, there were 3 of us. It was Marie Michael, myself, and Phyllis Sikora were the 3.
Okay.
And I think they were taking bets whether the 3 of us who were so different
Yes.
would survive in the house together. Our canonical division across the street. But we did.
We did. Uh-huh.
And then after profession, we all went in different directions. I went south. Phyllis went to do a CPE internship, and Marie, I don't know if she went to Latin America right away or whether it was another. I think she did.
But you're all engaged in different areas at present. So what was one ministry that you had that energized you the most, or gave you the most inspiration or great experience?
Before I entered, I had worked 2 summers with migrant farm workers off of the Sea Islands off of Charleston, and I just fell in love with them. The whole Hispanic culture was so vivacious and beautiful, and so that's been my life, basically, working with farm workers and Hispanic community for the last.
But you did not know Spanish at that time.
No, I didn't know
Spanish.
So how
did you're excellent in Spanish, and how did you learn that?
Well, the beginning was como está
Yeah.
usted, that kind of thing. But basically, I went to language school, but the biggest thing, I spent 2 years in the Dominican Republic.
That's right.
Between the time that I was in Greenville, South Carolina, and the other ministries. And so I knew, I'm terrible at languages, so I knew if I didn't have immersion experience, I probably wouldn't have a chance.
Right, right. So that's where you learned it and you've used it.
Well, I've
Yeah.
begun the process, yes.
Right.
It's been an ongoing process for me.
And Harabacoa, that's where you were in the DR.
Yeah, I was in Harbacoa with Ana Feliz and Patty Harvat for 2 years. And I worked with the kids in the barrios doing artes manuelas, arts and craftsy kind of things. It was over a little river that thing. And I would go up in the car and I could hear the kids say, Catalina, Catalina. As I was going up, they would call all the kids to this one house where we would do the whatever we were doing that day.
With the joy, you brought the joy that is you.
Yes.
Yeah, to all that you did, all that you were involved. So another ministry that spoke to you and changed you and had a profound effect on you.
I guess my whole ministry has been working with Hispanics in one way or another. Worked with farm workers in North Carolina. I worked in parish ministry, gathering people together, having a meal. I always believe in having a meal to gather folks together. And then we did communications with different the guys would come up and they'd want to talk to their families in Mexico. So we arranged a kind of thing where they could call them. They had to do it a week before so that they could get the family to the telephone. But that was one of the things. I think one of the most challenging ones I did in '86, we did an immigration thing. It was IRCA, I think was the name of it, where farm workers could get their temporary residence and then their permanent residence. And I organized the whole thing for the diocese. Trained people, went for training, then trained people, then I oversaw the whole project, and it lasted about 2 years. And when we first started, I thought, oh, what have I got myself into? But I knew we needed to do it because it would make a big difference in the farm workers and the other Hispanics who were there in getting some kind of paper so they were not at the mercy of whomever came by or wanted to. And that was one of the challenges was keeping advocacy, if they were getting cheated or whatever, to go and go and talk to the farmers. And I'm a farmer's daughter. And my father used to say to me, now you be nice to those farmers. And so, and I think that gave me a different point of view. A lot of people I found in advocacy were so against the farmers and so against anybody and I saw the farmers had a hard time too. Now sometimes didn't do so well. But, and being in the South, when they wouldn't want me on their property, I would say, no, you can't, I'm coming to pick them up to go to church. You can't.
The migrants, okay.
Yeah, you want them to go to church. And of course, they were good Baptists, so that helped out too.
Well, you're in
migrant of the South.
Migrant territory right around here.
Yes, and when I was a novice, I went out to the migrant farm workers here, and since I've come back this past year, I've gotten involved with some of the migrant farm workers in the area because that gives me life. I don't know. I said when I walk into a migrant camp or walk with those folks, just something inside of my soul comes alive that doesn't.
Do you still get your guitar out and sing?
No, I haven't done too much of that this time. They've got a beautiful music ministry at St. Mary's Spanish.
Right, here in town.
Yeah.
Right.
And when I was in North Carolina, I used it a lot because we would do liturgies in Spanish where there was no music, no anything. So we would. I was kind of in charge of all of it. I laughed at sometimes that I practiced medicine, law, and all kinds of things without a license in North Carolina because whatever was needed, we did.
Now, what about New Orleans?
Oh, New Orleans I loved New Orleans.
I know you did.
I was there for 7 years. We went there after Katrina to help with any way we could. And then after about 3 years, they asked if any volunteers wanted to go to there to continue the being helpful. And so I loved, I'd never thought I'd live in New Orleans with other Adrian Dominicans. So I jumped at the chance to go. And so I went there in 2008, and we did a little bit of everything. I worked in a couple of different programs. The first program I worked in was an AmeriCorps program where I worked with children of incarcerated. And we did things with them, set up mentors, set up a program where they took the bus to see their parents in jail, and all kinds of other things. I also got to work in the jail, kind of being a counselor. And that was just a wonderful experience, getting to know the guys that were there who were mostly African American. And they taught me a lot about the culture and of New Orleans. But New Orleans was very Southern too, so that I felt right at home. There was yes sir, no sir, ma'am, honey child. So that was fun to be in that kind of environment.
And you also have a background of a social worker.
Right.
Which helped you in all those
I
places.
have a degree in social work from St. Louis University, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so that was helpful. I originally did that because there were Spanish-speaking in North Carolina who needed counseling, and there were no Spanish-speaking counselors at that point, so I did that at one point. I was also in the House of Preachers for 3 years in North Carolina, so I did different things, but I stayed at basically.
But that was a new ministry there, the House of Preachers,
Yeah.
and that went well during the time that
it lasted.
It lasted.
I had been doing preaching in Spanish at the Masses on Sunday, so I had really enjoyed that. And I've always loved Scripture. That's coming up in the South, you know.
Okay.
That
Bible
was something,
school.
Bible stuff,
Bible
you know, in
stuff.
Scriptures and stuff like that. And so that was always a thing. And one of my singing and music has always been a part of my life too. I always thought you could pray better singing than you could just. And this song, "My Life Flows On an Endless Song Above Earth's Lamentations. I hear the real though far off hymn that hails a new creation. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love is the Lord of heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing?"
Right.
So, I like to sing. I like music. And I think that was, you know, growing up on a farm, you learned respect in the South for all kinds of people and things. Compassion was another value. I would say respect for the earth. Because I can remember my father sitting on the porch hearing rain and saying, "Listen to that liquid gold coming down." We'd look at him funny and he says, "Well, you got to have rain to have crops." So, you know, that whole season kind of thing too was very much a part of our life.
So a lot of that was your upbringing too at home.
Yeah.
The environment with which you
Right.
lived was a tremendous blessing for you.
Yeah.
And it remained. Just like that Spanish, you said you learned a little bit. You know a lot. You're just very much able to speak and to be in ministry with the
Yeah, right now
Spanish-speaking.
I've just started doing a Spanish Bible study at St. Mary's on Friday night. So I'm real excited about that.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah,
And
they have a big community there of Hispanics. So to say which ministry has had the greatest impact, I think they've all been impacted by your presence with them. But of all of them, is there one that just...
It would be the migrant, working with migrant farm workers, definitely.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
You know, being out. When I first started working in the Raleigh diocese, I said, "They're paying me to go out and visit farm workers and eat Mexican food." I said, "I can't believe this."
Yeah, they love to have you in their homes.
Yeah.
That's always a blessing when Sister will come to the home. That's very good. So at this time of your life, you're here now. You left New Orleans in...
Last year, 2017.
Yeah, 2017.
Last year, about a year ago, I came here.
And then you moved here.
Yeah, I was having some health problems,
Right.
and it was getting difficult. I hadn't been able to drive for a while, so that made moving around and stuff more difficult. So I finally decided that it might be good to come here where there's all kinds of auxiliary services.
Right. So you walked to St. Mary's?
No, a nice lady from the parish picks me up.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
Yeah, where there's
Maria.
there's a will, there's a way.
And Nancy Murray got me involved with the migrants here. She was involved with them, so
Okay.
when I would come up in the summer, she'd say, "Oh, don't you want to go out to the migrant camp?" I'd say, "Okay."
Kitty, how would you like to be remembered?
I think as a compassionate person who had a lot of joy. That probably would be. And a faith-filled woman. Because I think those all go together for me. Being in love with Jesus and being in love with the people. As St. Catherine, I think, said, you walk with 2 feet. I think that would be probably the greatest thing.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years? As well as where do you see the congregation?
Well, I think the congregation is very exciting. We started out small, and then we got very large, and then we're going to get small again. So it's just a cycle. 5 years from now, I hope I'll be still being able to go out to the migrant camps and working here. If not, I'll be doing things here on campus, visiting with people. I love people, so that's not a problem at all.
You're in a great environment right over here at the Maria building for that ministry.
I really love being over here because I see more people. Being in the apartment, you don't get to see as many people.
No.
And so I've loved being over here. So
and I'm sure they love
walk
having
in and out, and so that's been really good. And 5 years, who knows? The community, I think, will have changed a lot, but that's life. Life is change.
That's right.
And
you deal well with change?
Sometimes, depending on what the change is.
Right.
Coming up here the first time 40 years ago was a change that was very challenging.
So you've been in the congregation how long now?
I think about 42 years.
Wow.
I can't believe it. What happened to the years?
Well, you must have been having a good time.
I have.
Anything else that you'd like us to know about you? Is there something that if we knew, we would be so surprised? You're kidding. Did you know Kitty Bethea? Blah, blah, blah.
Well, I got an award in North Carolina for providing a Lifetime Achievement Award for providing health care to farm workers.
Wonderful.
And I was on the board there for a farm worker federal clinic for 3 years, and we dealt with a lot of challenging things while I was there. So that would be one thing. And I had to organize so people would be really shocked at that I organized all that stuff.
You think?
Because as you all know, I'm very spontaneous, and that's why I didn't like teaching. It was too structured, whereas the works that I've done most of the time have been very unstructured.
Well, I think as you look at the congregation, we are very diversified.
Yes.
Yes, and everyone's contributes in their own way.
That's right.
And to
I'm
be
glad
able,
they're teachers.
to be able to express ourselves without feeling intimidated or pulled back. So thank you for coming. Thank you for your gift of joy and hospitality that you have, and may your future, hold special times for you in special places, because a lot of people need the gifts that you so generously give.
Well, thank you.
So thank you.